this is my review spoilers. So if you are done and you don't want to hear spoilers, all right, I suggest you, tune out. Thanks for listening. See you later, Space Cowboy. No, I didn't. All right, I need a sip of water. Okay, spoiler review. Here we go. Fuck this movie, man.
Angry. Angry young man.
Jesus Christ. This movie just had so much wrong with it. It didn't make any sense. The movie starts off with the Maximals being on their own planet, and then the Unicron essentially having these searchers go onto the planet to get stuff for him. Apparently, for some reason, he needed that, even though Unicron's capable of eating planets. Even then, he had like an army of people rather than just one that was dedicated to just doing whatever it is that he needed to be done. Um, he was looking for a transdimensional warp key, but he didn't explain how they knew how to find it. They didn't say that they could sense it. They didn't say it gave off a certain amount of energy that they could track or anything like that. It was just that that's what he was looking for, and his planet just somehow happened to have it. And it was with the Maximals. So then the Maximals take the key and leave off planet to go somewhere else where they can hide it. And then, lo and behold, they landed up on Earth. This is when things get wiggy. So then later in the movie, you actually see that Optimus Primal meets Optimus Prime, to which he replies that he was named after Optimus Prime. And then earlier within the movie, you had Razor. I was gonna say Razorbeak. You had Sky Razor, Air Razor. I was about to say Sky. Yeah, Air Razor referred to the Autobots as someone when they asked who she is, and she says, "I'm someone from your past as well as your future." Which was incredibly vague and trying to be mysterious, but it honestly didn't make any fucking sense because it's not as if they needed to keep it a secret that they are, if you're going by what the actual Maximals were within Beast Wars, it doesn't make any sense to kind of say that because this movie didn't clarify any of that information. So if you happen to be a fan of Transformers, you might understand that aspect. But if you're watching this movie, it didn't clarify that. So it didn't make any fucking sense. So then upon them seeing Optimal Optimus, when he refers to Optimus Prime, he says, "I was named after you." To then also kind of justify that, yeah, they might be from the future or something like that. But then that brings in a big ass question about what the hell they are doing with the transdimensional warp key if it's capable of setting them at different points in time. So if it's capable of taking them to different points in time, then why didn't they just use it to either go back in time to before their planet got ravaged by Unicron and escape, or mount a worthy defense or move their planet entirely or something like that? If it's capable of moving Unicron, then wouldn't they be capable of moving their own planet? No justification of this whatsoever. No one talks about it. No one brings it up. No one clarifies it or whatever. They just had that happen, and then they met the Autobots. And again, it's not as if they were worried about actually interfering with the Autobots, because they do. They have no problem with it whatsoever. They generally do not give a fuck that they're talking to the Autobots. Again, making it incredibly weird. And also, if they happen to be creatures from the fucking future, then wouldn't that mean that the planet that they're on should have been Cybertron, not some forest dense area that looked almost like Earth? Because again, they're the descendants of the Autobots, so that just doesn't make any fucking sense. And again, like I said, this movie does not clarify shit, so it just kind of brought that up. He said, "I was named after you," and then they moved the fuck on. No one questioned it. No one asked what that meant. No one even gave a fuck. And it's so unbelievably stupid. But you had a majority of the movie kind of feel like that. Now, the main character, didn't care to remember his name, doesn't matter. I wish Shia LaBeouf came back. Hashtag I wish Shia was back. Um, the main character is a Puerto Rican kid, essentially trying to get a job so he can help pay for his brother, because he had sickle cell anemia, to pay for his treatments, to which they were behind on the money, blah, 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 just to make the main character seem sympathetic. Now, he's ex-military. He used to be a soldier, but he's also very much tech savvy. Another issue with this movie is that none of that comes into play whatsoever. Hell, he's given a goddamn super suit later on within the movie, which also doesn't justify that, because he's military, that means that he knows what he's doing. It's generally Uh, Honestly, it fits within the realm of what they like. It should have been like what they did with the first GI Joe movie when they got super suits, but honestly, it looked just like those. And then considering what they do with GI Joe later on in the movie, oh my goodness. Oh yes, that's right. You heard me. GI motherfucking Joe is a thing that pops up within this movie. I'm gonna get to that a little bit later. But you have the main character who essentially is constantly shown in the very beginning as a sympathetic person that you might feel for. Hell, the fact that he needs money and then he's denied a job is something that's like supposed to be like, oh, but then what's even dumb is that it started to seep in those different moments in which, they kind of had to make the director shut the fuck up about his inability to talk about race within these movies because that's incredibly stupid. But you had a moment where essentially the guy was talking to the main character, the guy he was supposed to get a job with. He was speaking to him, and in the most unprofessional way, he just canceled his appointment without actually calling him and let him know that he's not going to do the job interview, but he just canceled it outright, which is incredibly stupid and honestly just like such a hassle. Like, why would you put someone through something like that, even if you don't care to work with them? But it's like, unless you purposefully want some type of situation to happen where he comes down to the office and then you could tell him in his face, no, you ain't getting the job. Stupid, right? But and then it's supposed to be set in the 90s, and that still seems like that's still something that was like professionally done. No, where your interview has been canceled. Sorry for the inconvenience. That's all that it takes. But you had the main character essentially confront him, to which he revealed that the main character essentially was let go from the military because, while he was in the military, he had issues when it came to like working in groups or like listening to authority, blah blah blah. And then for some reason he said, "I can't work with you people." To which the movie it quietly pauses, zooms in on the main character's face, who is a Puerto Rican, and to which he looks and goes, "You people." And it's like, oh my goodness, why? One of the many times I rolled my eyes into this stupid curmudgeon of a movie. And it's like, well, according to the context of what he's talking about, he's not talking about your race, but because of how this movie is framing it, it seems like he's talking about your race. And that's incredibly stupid. But there's a lot of that going on within this fucking movie, and it's just so overbearing and stupid because it doesn't fit, much like a lot of the plot points within this movie, that it just makes me roll my eyes so goddamn much because of how fucking stupid it is. So then upon him going home, he then, starts to, much like every young person who can't get ahead when they live in a terrible neighborhood, you start going to crime to make quick, easy cash because his brother is sick and, got to be sympathetic towards him. A sickly brother. I got to do crime because I didn't get a job. But it's like, that doesn't make any sense because, like, once you have multiple jobs set up, not just really one, if you were this hell bent on looking for a job, you would probably have more jobs lined up that you were still applying to. Also, why would you then get a job that essentially purposefully requires you to have someone that will give a negative fucking what is it? Not a review. We'll give a fuck. How am I blanking on this? I've gotten jobs before. Reference. Was it reference? Yeah, references. Like someone who will basically give you. No, I'm gonna say review. Fuck it. Who gives a negative review on your person, depending on how they felt with you and your actions and whatnot. Who does that? No one does that. No one in the history of this world will sit there and give an employer the actual number to their so like a brand new employer, you wouldn't give the actual number to someone that would have nothing but negative things to say about you. You give it to a friend or something like that would answer for that friend, and you would tell him all that he would need to know in case military jargon comes up and shit like that. And it's like you would be right there next to him feeding the information. It's simplistic shit like that. And this is not like this is new to the 90s or anything like that. People lie on resumes all the fucking time. So it's not that big of a goddamn deal. And again, it's not as if he would have been paid immediately upon him getting the job because the brother needed the money soon. He was sickly. He needed treatments. And then they were like, they're not going to be able to treat him because they don't have any money. They're like 3 months behind. So he needed quick cash. But essentially, this movie had it to where he turned bad as soon as he did not go, like as soon as one job interview just kind of denied him. And it didn't make any sense because why would he have multiple ones stacked up? And if anything, all you could have did was refer was like, hey, this is the one that I know I'm going to get, or it's like, I keep looking, but this one for sure I'm going to be able to get. And again, if he's tech savvy, why not have him apply to like a fucking auto shop, a radio, like a radio store? Hell, it's the '90s, Radio Shack, Circuit City. You can work in multitude of those different places and just do wonders. What like the TV repair places, any of those fucking things. And he also could have did well, but instead he applied to a security position that purposefully would need to do a background check that requires the negative background of him getting brought up. Shit that essentially would ruin the chance of him getting a job, rather than him going to some job that they wouldn't care about that aspect, because that's not what the job entails or what it's for. But yeah, stupid, so stupid. I can't believe I'm harping so much on this one aspect, but it's like, thinking about it, it's just so fucking dumb. And this is just the beginning of the avalanche that is the horribleness of this fucking movie. Now, the other main character that basically takes the spotlight in this movie is Black Girl. What is Black Girl? To summarize it, Black Girl essentially is an intern at a museum where the curator essentially uses her to just like to essentially go around talking about the different items and shit like that that's in the museum, and then she knows her stuff, but for whatever reason, she's just an intern, and the curator is obviously a fucking moron. But for some reason, she just feels, kind of disemboweled and left out because of the fact that, hey, I don't have this job or whatever. And naturally so, they made it to where her boss was this white woman, which I didn't feel that was that big of a deal, but I just felt that it was wrong over the aspect where it's like, so goddamn much, but then it makes it seem like, yeah, you're just definitely not going to get ahead, even though, despite the fact that not only do you love what this stuff is, but you're incredibly intelligent with this stuff. Why wouldn't you essentially demand that, hey, give me a job? And it's like, even like just simplistic things that could show, whether or not she had a passion for trying to do it, but then you essentially see how easily it was for them to just kind of overshadow that. Whereas, like, they had all the cards in their hand to where it's like they knew, yes, you're good at this and everything, but we don't want to hire you because of blah, blah, blah. Or because you have this on your record, you can't get hired, blah, blah, blah. You know the deal. Something like that. Just anything that was said to essentially justify the aspect to where it's like, you're stuck as an intern and that's the end of it. Um, which I wish the movie did. But again, like I said, doesn't clarify shit. So you got Puerto Rican, Black girl. Puerto Rican man, Black woman. Main characters, stupid. Both of them, stupid. So then you have the main dude essentially trying to rob a car because he needed quick cash. His brother is sick. To which he then speaks to the best actor in the entire fucking movie, who happens to be the rapper, Toby. Toby knew, he did a song for the movie with Nas. It's okay, but it he actually happened to be the one of the highlights of the movie. Him and Bumblebee, I would say. Well, the ending with Bumblebee, but he actually surprisingly was a very good actor. I'm saddened to say that it, essentially because of how bad and ridiculous this movie is, that the small part that he had when he was acting is going to be incredibly overshadowed by the ridiculousness that was going on within the movies, as well as the fact that they just kept pushing Pete Davidson and the Puerto Rican guy everywhere. But he honestly was very authentic. He felt and he felt right for the part, especially considering that they were supposed to be in the 90s. When you came to the Puerto Rican actor, he kind of was very stiff and awkward, almost as if he knew he didn't want to be in this movie, or as if he just had a like just you could just tell by looking at him that it was like, yeah, nothing that he did had any type of conviction with it. And then considering the fact that he's kind of a triple threat to where he's been in plays and he can sing and dance and he's been in movies before, that he would do a hell of a lot better. But this just felt so unauthentic, especially when it came to him just even talking and trying to say different slang terms from like in the 90s, or like stuff that you might hear from New York or whatever. And none of it really came off as generic or like anything that he has said. And honestly, I would have opted out from using the slang terms to just have him talking normally with his accent. to which it would have been a hell of a lot better rather than trying to talk in certain ways. And it just came off just so overbearing. But the Tobe dude, the rapper, um, he actually fit well. His mannerisms, the way he acted, the way he was talking, and things like that, just rolled off the tongue. He honestly fell into his part very well. And again, sad to say is the fact that it's like, yeah, that's gonna overshadow with the fact that he's in this shitty ass movie. But hey, you win some, you lose some. But the Puerto Rican goes around, steals a car. The car happens to be Mirage. Mirage takes him on a ride, to which he then takes him to the meeting location to where the Autobots are meeting up at, because the black chick that's the intern curator for the museum decides to test out some shit on some stuff that she had no business testing stuff out on, because she's just so fucking curious. And again, it doesn't make any sense considering the fact that apparently this job in itself is incredibly important to her. So important in the fact that she was willing to get treated like shit as an intern than to keep the job. But then for some reason, just because something popped up that she just didn't know about, rather than to generally have an intrigue in it and slowly build up a rapport to possibly get her to investigate it or anything like that. Instead, she went messing around with it on her own and fucking broke the actual thing that was that she was studying. Then to reveal part of the transdimensional warp key, which then shot up a beam that only the Autobots can see, thus letting them know that hey, there's something capable of taking them home for some reason. They came to this conclusion, even though they don't know what the transdimensional warp key is or was, but they just was like, no, this can send us home, just cause. And ironically, it could, but it was like, how the fuck did they know this? Whatever. So then the Autobots meet up, to which you only get Optimus, RC, Bumblebee, and Mirage. That's it. That's all you get. That's so goddamn stupid. No matter what, you have to remember, Transformers was created to sell toys. If you want to sell toys, give me Transformers. Just have a bunch of Transformers. The issue that a lot of these movies have is the fact that they are not able to ascertain the fact that kids like seeing giant robots that can turn into cars. They just do. I know I did. That's why I grew up watching it. Hell, I like seeing giant robots turn into animals, which is why I first got into Transformers because of Beast Wars. So I know my shit. And the thing is that as soon as you sit there and tell yourself that in order for the audience to understand, they need people to tell them what to feel. And it's just so unbelievably stupid, considering the fact that Transformers themselves are the people. They can speak, they can talk, they can move, they can feel, they die, and they stay dead. As long as you allow that human element to persist within the Transformers, you can have your cake and eat it too. You do not need to add a human element. Much like the show back in the day, generally the Autobots themselves only fucked with one person, and that was a little boy named Daniel, and then his father later on. That was it. That's all that they interacted with. And that's generally all that this movie needed to do. It just needed to have this one human character that you didn't need to generally focus that much on, but they build up a rapport slowly with the Autobots. Sadly enough, this honestly was perfectly executed with Shia LaBeouf within the first three Transformers movies. The third one, just kind of fucking terrible. But just still, the fact that you had this one titular main character that was able to communicate, talk, and converse with the Autobots and essentially had a feel for them because he went through hard times with them, sacrifices, helped them out and shit like that. So they relied and depended on him. Hell, it was perfectly executed within the second movie where Optimus was asking for Sam's help, to which he replied that I just want to live a normal life. I'm done with all that stuff. It's cool that Bumblebee still is around, but I don't need to get involved with you guys. I'm just a regular person. And then they did what they did in that movie and the ridiculousness. But still, my point persists. You do not need to have these drawn out, overbearing characters that essentially give you this facade in terms of a person so that you can sit there and care for whatever plight that they're going to, especially if your movie is not even going to answer said plight, let alone deal with it in a way that makes it to where what it is that you're bringing up about this character is even warranted or that it fucking matters. It none of that ever did. None of it does. So it's just unbelievably dumb that they continuously do this when again it does absolutely nothing for the overall aspect of Transformers, which generally should be just to sell these toys or to make people invested in this franchise overall. And the best way to do that is to focus on the giant talking robots that can feel feelings. Oh my goodness. So you essentially have Puerto Rican black chick um, kind of dealing with one another because they use the dude to try and steal the transdimensional warp key that she's studying and whatnot. Only then for them to be attacked by Unicron soldiers and lackeys who never explain how they found them, never explain how they were able to travel throughout space and time or whatever to get where it is that they need to go. And again, they never give a reason as to how they're able to like sense the energy or anything like that. They just kind of show the fuck up, and all hell breaks loose. So on some Galactus type shit, apparently Unicron is able to give energy to these guys, making them incredibly powerful. Now, this happens actually in Transformers when it comes to Galvatron, but that's neither here nor there. And then they promptly defeat the Autobots. Now, in a sense of stupidity, you have what is very odd because again we got to remember these movies are supposed to be more so a soft reboot for the Transformers franchise itself, kind of going in their own direction but starting earlier. It's very weird, very complicated, nothing that's been permanently established or basically talked about correctly to justify anything that's been going on within these movies between Bumblebee and this one. But more so you have the character of Optimus being very much well out of character, like by standards of like every single movie he's been in. You have him as someone who essentially is very crass when it comes towards humans. He does not care to have them included in what they got going on. He doesn't really want them involved, let alone not in the sense of being worried about their safety, but more so just that on the feels that he can't trust them. And to the point where you have a character like Bumblebee essentially just kind of reframed that no, like I trust the humans, I've dealt with them before. Hell, he just has a part where he just says they're my friends, and that just generally applies to all humans for some reason. But it's very odd and weird that you get this with the Optimus character, considering the fact that he's more so been always the one that's just, our war is our war. I don't want to get the humans involved as it could lead to a lot of them getting killed, and that's not right. We're here to regroup and fight to take back our planet. We're the resistance. But I don't want to endanger the life that's already on this planet because then that wouldn't really justify what we're doing if we're going to let them be killed so we can prosper. That's not who Optimus is. That's not really why a lot of Autobots even follow him. So why even have that? And it just insisted on that aspect of his character only to justify the fact that the Puerto Rican main character essentially kind of felt the exact same way when it came towards his family, thus justifying the aspect to where both of them were exactly the same. They wanted the same thing. It's just that the prospect of what they wanted just applied to their people on a racial divide, if you will. God damn it. But again, it doesn't fit with the characters, nor does it even make sense within the movie. Hell, you have the main character essentially kind of multiple times just break down that, hey, push comes to shove, let's destroy the transdimensional warp key so that the bad guys can't get to it. Because if they can't get to it, then that means that, hey, Unicron can't come here. Only then for when the option actually happened, which would have been a far more poignant and impactful moment if Mirage, the person who essentially was closer to the main character, was the one who said something. But instead, they had Optimus kind of come in front of him before he could destroy it and go, no, please, we won't be able to get back home if you do this. No, please stop. To which he listens, and then it is promptly stolen, thus making everything that he was going to do and what he was going to say an actual justifiable thing, as now the bad guys have it and they're generally going to destroy and kill everybody. But he responds to Optimus by going, I can't even be mad at you. You was trying to do what was best for your people, just like me. And that makes no fucking sense. It made no fucking sense within the movie. Because if you were, you would have destroyed it. Because your hypothesis was correct. If it got into the hands of the enemy, The whole planet is fucked, and then all of you are going to die. But if he was able to destroy it, then they have no reason for being there. No one's going to destroy the planet. You're golden. But instead, he didn't, and then the enemy took it. And then later in the movie, they'll destroy it anyway. So again, not really given a reason as to why he wasn't right, nor did do something to where it was like, hey, even though you destroyed it, there still might be a way for you guys to head home, considering that was the only reason that Optimus was so hell bent on getting the warp key in the first fucking place. Good lord. So just all those elements going together just makes for such a crappy and shitty concept. And then I even get into the fucking Maximals, who honestly just played the part of stupid. Like, honestly, they were so not important. You could have had it to where they were ancient Autobots or other, just ancient Autobots that were there beforehand that essentially were dealing in something else, not necessarily the Maximals, for it to be like the Beast Wars or anything like that, because it just didn't fit. It didn't make any sense, and it didn't fit. You had it to where not only did they take the transdimensional warp key and they split it in half to hide it, that way no one could be able to use it, but they hid it in tombs and secret compartments and whatnot that then were dug up, or people were able to dig up, and it had strange letterings and numbers attached to it that were symbols that the Maximals left in order to have clues as to how to find the other keys to put them together in case they needed to put them together. The problem with this is that the Maximals themselves didn't remember their own fucking language that they wrote down for the keys. These machines, these machines that we know are machines, as multiple times you'll see Optimus have holograms appear. They'll talk about different aspects with machinery. They'll showcase different machinery even between the Maximals and whatnot. And yet, for some reason, different things, whatever happens with the transdimensional warp keys, they were more so like, well, that's a long lost art, or we did that a long time ago and kind of just forgot about what was going on. Don't really remember where we put this, where we put that, but we've been waiting all this time keeping this shit hidden. And if for some reason, oopsie doodle, someone was able to excavate this piece of the key from this site, but yet the other one is so much harder to find, and in which we took and removed from his compartment and then entrusted it with humans of all people, whom just had it under a piece of cloth, and it never reacted at all the same way that the other piece did upon it being released. Stupid fucking movie, all right? Such a stupid fucking movie. It unbelievably dumb. And for whatever reason, this was something that they generally thought made sense. Like, I don't understand why they thought this made sense, but they generally thought that this made sense. But it's just so much of it that was just such an inconsistent gobbledygook that it was just so begrudgingly hard to look at. But overall, the movie itself kind of just had this weird influx of where you generally got the self-sacrifice from one of the Autobots. I bet you can guess which one. He happened to be the main character of the Autobots. Well, that's right. Pete Davidson's Mirage, y'all! Or he almost sacrificed himself, but because he was such the bankable actor that they was using for this fucking movie, to the point where they were promoting his ass to the death, that not only did he not die, but he was able to sit around for a rousing speech of brotherhood that was given. And then he just woke up and then essentially made himself into a suit for which the Puerto Rican man could then wear and use to fight for some reason. I don't know why. It didn't make any sense whatsoever. But that was something that they did. Into which then they just had them all fight the bad guy at the same time, and then they were able to finally put everything together. Now, to keep the black lady around, they constantly, like I said, you had it to where the Maximals conveniently forgot their own fucking language, even though that they're these living robots. They forgot their own language and the clues that they left towards how to deactivate or do shit towards this transdimensional key, the thing that's theirs that they know how to use. To the point where the black chick was actually the one who figured out where it's located, where it might be, how to deactivate it, what the code is, where she found pieces of the code, she memorized it, she knows how to translate it. Hell, even the console that she used to be able to shut down the transdimensional warp key from bringing in Unicron fit a fucking human. The Maximals is big as shit. Why is the console human sized? So goddamn stupid. Hell, the bad guys put the key together and it just opened up a bridge. This bridge just magically appeared out of nowhere. It just started creating itself along with an army of bad guys to fight the Autobots and the Maximals with no explanation as to how this happened whatsoever. It just fucking happened. Stupid. Unbelievably stupid. I would say the only part that I actually got hyped for was when Bumblebee showed up near the end fight of the movie, because he was promptly killed and then promptly brought back to life, as he is a favorite mainstay character within the Transformers franchise as far as these movies are concerned. So yeah, that was the only part that I essentially was pretty hyped for, as just the introduction of LL Cool J's "Mama Said Knock You Out." Just went really well, and then the action scene that they did was just okay. But this movie essentially only had three action scenes, and two of them were abysmal, and the only one that's actually worth a damn is the last one. It literally functioned just like Avengers Endgame, where you just got this big action set piece at the very end, and it kind of throws shade over your eyes for how ridiculous everything was up until this point. Hell, as much as they promoted and had the Maximals within this movie, they literally only transform at the end of the fucking movie. And then when they do, there's such a gobbledygook of shit going on that you couldn't even see their transformations clearly. Hell, they didn't even have guns. They were basically fighting melee for some reason. Um, and it just was so bad. And then the movie itself promptly ends with the main character going into another interview where this time he's at a low tier company. And honestly, it's like, well, why didn't you try to do this before? And to which the guy was talking to him, and then he was explaining how now he has work experience being with the team. Because, yeah, that's something that was always an issue with his character. Also, let me remind you, nothing about his past being in the military or being tech savvy had anything to do with this fucking movie. Aside from him basically hot wiring Mirage, honestly, that was something that just didn't need to happen either. But aside from that, there's never a moment where him being tech savvy comes into play within this movie, or him being a part of the military comes into play. He just kind of has this overbearing aspect where, hey, the world is at stake, but in order to protect my little brother, or my family, I'm willing to blow up this thing that I don't understand or I don't know because it might destroy the world. Never a moment in time comes into play like, hey, money. Like, didn't you do this for money? Weren't you doing this for money or whatever? Hell, they didn't even keep to the they didn't even keep to the deal that they made with him, which is also odd because it's like Bumblebee was brought back, so he could have did it. RC could have did it. Optimus could have did it. Somebody else could have did it. That was the deal that they made with him, and he did save you guys. So least you could do. But it was like basically like brought up that Mirage was like, hey, you help us out. I could turn like, and honestly, it was like one of the other decent parts of the movies where it was like, hey, this actually is a pretty cool idea. Where Mirage was like, you help us out. I could turn to any car. You sell me somewhere, and then you get the money from that, and then essentially I just turn back and break out. And it's like that's actually a cool deal, and that's actually a cool way to get a character to be instilled in this series, or and to be doing what's going on, considering the fact that he needs money. But again, he's a boring character. This is uninspiring, and it's very, very stupid. Not the plan, but just the character. He's very, very stupid. So it just realistically was just so underwhelming and just so ridiculous, and it just nothing made any sense, and it just did not click at all. And it just had so many different people play. What was it? It's about like five characters in the entire movie that essentially take up everything. And other than that, there's no point in caring or being invested in any other one. Oh, let's not forget the other big giant racist aspect, where an Autobot that was in the little South America area that they were at, um, essentially appeared and had a Spanish accent, to which the main character replied over the fact that he had a Spanish accent. And he was like, "Where'd you get that accent from?" And he was like, "Where are you from?" And he said, "Cybertron." And he said, "Nah, I mean, because of your accent." To which this Autobot, this fucking robot, then replied, "That's kind of racist." And then they all just kind of ignored everything and kept walking. To which the main character was like, "Well, I'm gonna be racist. He's a robot, right?" And it's so, but this movie, man, this movie. God damn it. Hey, real quick, make sure you check any of the links down below if you want to see any of the stuff that I'm involved with. This includes more episodes of my podcast, as well as a comic book that I'm working on with my buddies over at These Guys. But as always, this has been another episode of Fun with Flame. I've been your host, Daniel the Flame, and as always, good people, I hope you had fun.